Hi. All right. Patrice Evans here. How is everyone doing? I hope you're enjoying the series. I just have a little bit more I want to add to share with you that it just came to me and I realized I didn't go over it. So there are a lot of terms that have to do with being in a toxic relationship, a narcissistic relationship, or dealing with someone who is and trying to not get in a relationship with them. And one of the main things is how they talk to you, how they see you, and all that. So now, after you've done the early parts of that, of being with that person, then they're going to go into doing their stuff. And so, in other words, in the beginning of a relationship with someone who's toxic and probably narcissistic, is they're going to be so charming. They're going to always act like, you're wonderful, everything's wonderful, and they're just going to hide all of the things about them that's not good. And it's going to be after a little bit of time that you're going to see all the bad things. So I want to talk to you in a mini series about the word gaslighting. It's become a big word. So I have a one-woman show. I'm going to show the link here, and I have my book, Resilient Joy. And I have been talking about this for way longer than other people even noticed it. So, and then there are some other leaders that have been talking about it. And it's not a fun thing, but I feel like the Lord led me to talk about it. So now, if you're a young man and you're empathic, like as we've been talking about in the series, and you've just been drawn to these kinds of women that are toxic, modern women, and they're just toxic, whether they're modern or not, they're just toxic. And you might have even been in a really awful relationship with one already and been hurt by that. And being a man, especially a young man, you probably don't have a whole lot of support. And I really think that's awful. That's always been the case for men who have been abused emotionally or physically or any way treated poorly. And there's some things that you went through when you were in these relationships, or that you may have felt a little bit, and it was actually early signs that maybe you didn't see them and you didn't notice them, so you stayed in it longer than you should have. And this kind of fits into the red flags, some of the things that you will notice in the red flags. And so I want you to get prepared to hear a little bit about gaslighting. So this is the deal. My name is Patrice Evans, and I am a relationship coach for young Christian, empathic, successful men between 25 and 32. And I'm here to help you attract the right woman for a joyful marriage. So if this is what you were looking for, you're in the right place. This is what I do. And I'm an expert in so much, but really what the Lord has been honing in on is this leadership, empathic leadership and communication is what I do, because as the man of the house, you will be the leader. And so there's an empathic way to be a leader, to be a servant leader, to be an empathic leader. And if you want me to come and speak for your business or anything, I can help you with that. Because what comes with being a good leader and to being an empathic leader, the flip side of that is that narcissists are really drawn to us as empaths. I am considered a Heyoka empath. If you've heard it in my other videos, it's the rarest and the highest level empath that there is. Very powerful, spiritual, and healing. And so there are different stages or different strengths of empaths, as I've said before. Let's call it strengths for now, where you can actually have light, be an empath, but you're not like at the same level of that strength. Rather, levels of strength in terms of the way you were born is one way, but then levels of your development, I think that's the best way to explain it. So my level of strength in my birth was the highest level empath. And then some people have a little less, and sometimes they're still an empath, but they're not as high in their strength born with. That's how you're born. However, whatever you're born with, to get to the highest level of your growth in being that empath is you're going to have to do some things and grow and protect yourself and learn these skills that I'm talking about. And when you do that, which is what I do in my course, then you're going to show up as the highest level of whatever strength that is, and you can attract another empath, which would be amazing, or just somebody who's empathic, and you'll be able to have great relationships, including a lasting, joyful marriage. And so that's what I'm here to do to help you with. So one of the tools you're going to need to be aware of, and it fits under the umbrella of red flags, is how you're spoken to. This is when we talk about red flags, we always talk about boundaries. From my perspective, they go hand in hand, because I believe the boundary is the tool to be able to see the red flags. So when you're operating and doing that, and definitely I will click the video where I talk about that here. and then you'll be able to see it for yourself as part of this full series that I did. So I hope you see the whole series. So you'll see it all, how it's all pulled together. But gaslighting fits into that. In fact, part of what's happening when you're learning about red flags and you want to know about red flags early in a relationship is that you're looking for that. You're looking for people who go against what you put up when you said, let me just recap some boundary things. If I say that I don't really want to eat carbs right now because I'm, trying to cut that down right now on a first date with somebody, and he actually says, oh no, you should just do it. No, this is the difference. Let me show you the difference. A regular red flag would be he's pushing that on me anyway. And he's telling me you need to eat the carbs. This is something that, I spent the money on this and you need to eat it. Notice he's just straightforward going against my boundary. But while a gaslighting is under the umbrella of a red flag, it's not the only red flag. It is one of the biggest ones. And it's not just a red flag. It is how your relationship will be with this toxic person for the whole relationship. As soon as they start to switch from being love bombing, which means these are terms that we can go into later, they're just saying things that you want to hear to make you happy. They just want to keep you in this blissful place so that they can get their hooks in you, meaning be with you in a relationship. And once they're settled and safe, that's when the gaslighting is going to start. You might see a little bit early too. Very likely you'll see it early. You just won't notice it. Someone like me would notice it. Somebody who's very keen to it will notice it, but you probably won't notice it because, sometimes I even get thrown off and I say to myself, oh my goodness, I had my guard down with that one. You know what I mean? And I notice it later. So everyone gets it. And then we have some people that are so good at it that they're basically either borderline sociopathic or they are. And so it's really, really hard to read with those people. But you probably have seen them, but you just don't want to believe it because they're doing such a great job sweeping you off your feet. Once things get settled, though, they're going to start to come up. And what it is when you set your boundary, it doesn't even have to be a boundary at this point. It could just be you speaking about yourself, which is kind of in the family of a boundary because you're actually it's part of what built your boundary. So, if you have watched the series, you'll understand. So to build a boundary, you need to know yourself and you need to build some stuff to show this is where I don't go too far with because I know myself. And so I can only have one glass of wine. And that's just what I know about myself. Or I can't have wine at all. Or I don't like to go places where there's too much of, because of my growth in my faith. So I'm talking to Christian men, right? So you guys get this. Now, everybody's in different places in some of the growth. There's something in their faith, rather. There's some things that are negotiable and there's some things that are non-negotiable about the Christian faith. And I know that we're all over the place as Christians, but if we can get on the same page, the salvation prayer and knowing that Jesus is God in the flesh and died on the cross and all that goes on with actually coming into the family of Christ through prayer, receiving him, repenting of our sins, and asking him in our heart. That's what an evangelist would say for you to do. And when you do that, that is a non-negotiable. That is how you become a Christian. And there's some other ones, baptism after that, and then taking the communion as often as you can. These are sacraments that we're supposed to do. We're supposed to love one another. There's some other things that we're supposed to be doing. And outside of that, there are discernible matters and things that, God didn't call me to do that. God called you. And God didn't call me. You know what I mean? God called you. Maybe I'll get there, tithing. But right now, I don't feel convicted yet. And you only sin when you know what you should be doing and you don't do it. And not a lot of people know. And the longest distance is from the head to the heart. A lot of times people don't know. They don't know. They think it's fine. But they know the Lord, but they're baby Christians. So it's up to us to gently and lovingly and empathic leaders and guide them and help them and wait for them to get there. Let them grow because God knows what's going on. And so this is a side note, but what's happening with that's the proper way to do things. Gaslighting is when when you set up who you are with somebody and you share things about yourself, they undermine it and it's very, very, there's such a spectrum. I actually call it a gaslighting spectrum because it could be something as simple as downplaying something that means a lot to you and makes you who you are and kind of makes you feel crazy because you are. So gaslighting comes from a movie, and this is where the man was trying to make the woman feel like she was crazy. So he would turn on things and say, "What's going on here? Why is that on?" And she started to really feel like she was crazy because she was sure she turned off these things and he had turned it on. So that's this movie actually came back out of the woodworks like in 2020. When a lot of people were finally, those of us who are ahead of the game, sharing what we know about narcissism. This is when my book came out in 2021, but my one woman show, I talk about this and I talk about gaslighting. And I learned it from some professor that's been going on forever. Anyway, what you're doing when you're gaslighting, what's happening is that you had an experience. Something happened to you. It could be the most bizarre, crazy experience, like my whole book. In fact, my whole book is about a lifestyle of severe gaslighting. So, and it doesn't matter if it's you like my experience or not. This was my experience. So if you're a man that, you had an experience with a girl and she was rude to you and she was actually mean. And not only that, but she cheated on you. She took advantage of you and she really didn't treat you like you feel like you deserve. So now you're going with the next person and you're telling them this story, let's say, and you're saying, yes, she just wasn't treating me right and I gave her everything. And they say, oh, what are you, first of all, they can make fun of you and say, what are you, a wimp? That is a form, it's in the family of it because they call it digs, little digs, but no, that's verbal abuse and gaslighting is verbal abuse. What they could say is, oh, I know her. I wouldn't imagine that she could do that. You're talking about Stephanie from school? She's never done that to anybody else. Very light, right? Have you heard that from a banker? Have you heard that from other people? So what is that supposed to mean? That because she hasn't done that to anybody else, that means you're lying? What are you trying to say? That's a subtle gaslighting. When somebody makes a comment like, well, I've never seen that before, that is a gaslighting comment. Because what are you trying to say? I've heard things like, in all the years that I've known him, he's never said that to me. So what does that mean? Because you haven't heard it, that means I haven't? Are you trying to say that my experience isn't real? You know what I mean? When you say that every time I go to her house, I thought we were over. I thought that we had moved on. But every time I go to her house, it seems like she says hi to everybody else, but she doesn't say hi to me. And not only that, but it seems like on purpose, she's always inviting everybody except me. And I know that we had a relationship, it didn't go well, but something isn't right. And you really are experiencing this. You tell a friend or you tell anyone and there's like, I don't see that. I think she looks like she's fine to me. That's not true. That means you didn't really experience it. And it's supposed to make you crazy making it. It makes you second guess what you really are experiencing. And this is a huge thing for people who are empathic. Because what happens with empathic people, we don't want to be self-righteous. One of the biggest reasons why we go through it so long before we finally realize it is because we second guess. We allow them to do that to us, to second guess ourselves so that we're not as strong and we don't see the abuse that's going on. And the toxic women that you'll be dealing with, oh my goodness. Wait, I have to get to talking about narcissistic women very soon. So please comment below. Let me know if you want me to get into it. First of all, narcissists and people who are like this are already masters at doing this. And they do it in a way, sometimes they do it like a joke. So let's see one that's like a joke. Guys tend to do it with each other a lot. Where you guys, the digs, the comments, the undercurrents, and all those things are in there. But the big thing is, because I want to keep it in relationships, so I'm going to try to see if I can keep it in a man and a woman in a relationship response. Man, I really gave it my all with this relationship. I took her here, I took her there, I took her to the best places, and I just feel like she has no respect for me. And I don't know. I don't feel like this is the right woman for me. She says she's a Christian, but she's actually even cursed at me. I've had to hold her back from hitting me. So the guy knows the same woman, right? And she acts like a perfect angel around the church and around the people in church. And she's also, let's say, a deacon's daughter, let's just say. And so he respects the deacon. So because he respects the deacon, he's going to assume that the girl's great. And so because it's just been set up that these people have this credibility and have this status that's so high, that the answer is her dad would never let her be like that. I can't believe she would do something like that. Or don't say, I can't believe her dad would never let her be like that. Man, I've never seen her do that with anybody. She's always so friendly and sweet. And he goes on. And she's even nice to me, you know? And that's it. Now, everyone has a right to their opinion about things, but right after you express your experience, no matter how bizarre it is, see, people like to do things in private. Y'all need to know that about gaslighting, is that people, and if you are somebody who's been this way, you need to know that you need to stop doing this, because people do odd, mean, vicious, crazy things. Think about it. They're doing it in private, and they love to do it with an empath. They do that with an empath because they know that this person's kind and they're not going to tell anybody, and they probably got away with it. So before you second guess somebody, look at their history and who they are. Look at who they are. They may not have the most money in the room, and they may not be the loudest person, because I bet you that deacon, with all due respect, is probably a narcissist himself. She's probably a narcissist. But see, narcissists are good at looking good on the outside. And so when they do that on the outside, then you have a hard time, other people have a hard time believing the victim's experience, right? So that's a third-party gaslighting. When a narcissist is gaslighting you, they're strategic. See, a third-party gaslighting, they don't know that they're doing it sometimes. They don't realize it. You have to actually tell them. I've been doing that more lately. I've been actually letting people know that they're doing that. This is a side note, but I've noticed it could be if you're of color. This is what a lot of people of color have been going through for most of the time in America, is that they're always told that their experience isn't real. If it's racism, if it's women go through it, all these different things. So that's a whole story in itself. But people are experiencing things, and people are downplaying their experiences, and it gets as severe as a whole culture sometimes, because we don't respect people from that culture. When you say something, we don't listen to it as being real. We don't want to admit that it's that horrific or that really exists. And so this is a serious problem. And if you want me to come to your job to talk to your company to talk more about these kinds of things, empathic leaders don't allow this to happen. Okay, so back to the relationship. You're dealing with a woman. You got to know her. She's you're closer. And now you're seeing these things in her. So now what's her purpose of doing it? A narcissist does it for a specific reason. It's not just because our culture just, people just do this, because this is something people do without even realize they're doing it. But when a narcissist does it, they know exactly why they're doing it. It's because they have all those characteristics of being insecure. They need validation. They want to be entitled. They're entitled. They need to be center of attention. And this is the big one. And I write it in my book. I talk about it in my play, my one woman show, which I can link here too. They need to be above you. And especially if you're an empath, they see your core strength. Empaths are strong. We have strengths, especially Heyoka. They see that, and they want that supply for themselves, but they never want you to know how powerful you are, because that would make them like this, and they have to constantly feel like they're on top all the time. So whenever they are feeling threatened by you, they're going to somehow try to say something deliberately to make you think that you're crazy. That's deliberate. Some of these narcissistic people, and if you're young in your 20s, they don't even know where they learned it. They were around it their whole lives, and they may not be a narcissist themselves, but they've picked up narcissistic traits. That means they're on their way to being one too. And that ain't our problem, right, y'all? That's not your problem if she is one, picked up traits, whatever. If it's happening to you when somebody is shooting at you, that's not the time to be wondering why, what happened to her, but You get out of the way first, and you can start journaling about it later. You end that. These are big red flags, okay? This is the biggest red flag, because this is what your relationship will be like. And I will tell you the danger of that in the next video. But in this video, I want to tell you that narcissists do this deliberately, and they keep doing it, and they don't do it once, because there's an ultimate plan they're looking for. When they met you, you were up here, high, happy, beautiful, and all these great things. You became their supply. and they start draining you so much that you're losing your energy. This is what happens with empaths. And not only that, but they're actually telling you that you are not what you think you are. And they start to tell you that you're worthless and I don't need you and I can get any guy and you're not worthy. They start to, the gaslighting that they do is eating at who you are, the core of who you are. That is a dark spirit. Run. You won't even recognize yourself after a while if you continue to stay in that relationship. So gaslighting can be a light thing. It's something that's so common because we have such an abusive society and it's been going on so long that even though we know these terms, this is how we've built our society, especially in America. It is a narcissistic society, capitalistic in a narcissistic way, racist, sexist, all these horrible things. So what do you think you're going to get when you meet a woman from this society? Then there's other societies that are machismo. They have their own level of prejudice or classist stuff. Where do you think you're going to find a woman? She's going to come out of one of those homes and she's going to pick up some of those ways. So what your job is to find out those women who are empathic like you, because we don't do that to a fault, right? So you want to find a woman that doesn't do that. All right. And look for these red flags. And if you have any questions, just put them below. If you want me to do a video specifically with a specific scenario. Bless you. I hope this helped you. In my next video, I'm going to continue to talk about gaslighting, but this I'm going to tell you what the effects are and share with you some experiences I've had and what my experience has been. If you let this go, it can be very subtle, but if you let it go, it'll turn into something big. I also want to share with you what the other gaslighting is from the other people. There's a name for it, okay? So if you want to hear more from me, you want to work with me personally so I can work out what's going on in your personal life, definitely click on my links below and you can look at my webinar to learn more about my course, or you can just go straight to booking a call and I can actually start helping you, okay? All right, and the Lord has led me to give away some sessions and about 25 sessions, and they're worth $225 an hour, and the Lord is leading me to help 25 guys with those sessions. So if you would like that help, I can try and help you with that. I'll definitely help you with something immediate. But if you want me to help you be this person that can actually do this on your own, it's going to be through a process, okay? All right, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.